Cunningham, everybody. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. see I'm spending my money on other women. You're taking money from someone else. I called your mama about 3-4 nights ago. Called your mama about 3-4 nights ago. Your mama said, son, don't call my daughter no more. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. See, I'm spending my money on other women. You're taking money from someone else. Come back home, baby. Try my love one more time. I said, come back on home, baby. Try my love one more time. You know, if things don't go and suit you, I might go out of my mind. Oh, bring it on. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. See, I'm spending my money on other women. You're taking money from someone else. You see, I'm spending my money on other women. You're taking money from someone else. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm really not supposed to be the guy that you're here to see. You see me enough. But I want to start things off by pointing out a few things. First of all, this is actually, considering that the day is sort of taking a dive on us here at the last minute. This is a great turnout. I'm really impressed. We were worried about half an hour ago that no one was going to show up. So I appreciate that, particularly since we have some great speakers today. I often hear that, and I just had this conversation with Pat Kreitlow the other day, that because every once in a while what we hear is, you know, you guys aren't any better than the other side. When you were there, you just didn't get enough done. And it's just no different. So I'm just done voting, or I'm just done doing anything. And especially we heard this before the election of last November. I think that may be changing a little bit. What do you think? I think that may be changing a little bit. But just to demonstrate a couple of I think Governor Walker has demonstrated a lot for us already that there is a big difference. And you're going to hear a lot more about what a tremendous difference there has been in a very short time. But just during the 2 years that we did have the majority, we did do a lot of great things. And I think, again, you're going to hear from the next speaker a lot more about that. So I won't get into it. But I'm going to tell you, there is a difference just in numbers. When we were in the majority last session, we had 52 members in our caucus, 52. It takes 50 for a majority to get any bill passed. Well, I can tell you, I'm going to tell you right here honestly, we were lucky if we ever got 50 votes out of that 52. That was certainly a problem. On major tough legislation, there were typically 3 people or 3 members of our caucus or more that just would not vote with us for various reasons. So we did not operate like a majority sometimes. The only thing we really had a sure thing was that we did control the calendar. So whenever anybody comes up to you and says, you know, those Democrats didn't do much for us last session, try to explain that to them, because the difference is that we believed in democracy. The difference is we truly believe in democracy. If members felt for different reasons they could not support legislation, they just didn't do it. We do all we could to help them along the way and get something passed, but if they truly in their own hearts of hearts couldn't do it, they couldn't do it. No one was going to do anything nefarious to make them vote one way. That's how Democrats and how democracy works. You don't see that happening now in this legislature. In this legislature where the Republicans are in control, there's not much choice when the Republicans have a vote to take. Besides the fact that they have 61 votes there, and they can probably lose a few, but they haven't, have they? They have stuck together. It is a constant, in-step situation going on there. And I think I just wanted to lay that out there, because I get a little frustrated when I hear people say, even to this day, once in a while, they'll say, well, it was no different when you were there. We didn't get things done. Well, there's reasons for that. And there's reasons why Democrats need to be in charge. Because democracy works when Democrats are in charge. And we can make it work again. We can make it work again. Now, that said, I'm really been excited leading up to this, that a good friend of mine from the legislature, the 4 years that I was there, I was able to serve with a true champion that we brought, that came up here today to speak to us. And you all, and most of you all know who this is. I mean, Spencer Black is well known as a champion for the environment. If we weren't for Spencer Black, a lot of great things wouldn't have happened. So I'm just going to read a little bit of what I dug up about Spencer, even though I knew enough about Spencer. Don't worry, Spencer. These are all good things. All right, Spencer represented the 77th Assembly District in the Wisconsin State Assembly from 1985 until 2011 in January of this year. He served for many years as the chair of the Assembly Natural Resources Committee. He was also at one time elected Assembly Minority Leader and another time Assembly Assistant Minority Leader. Spencer authored numerous environmental laws, as you know, including the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Fund, the mining moratorium, the Lower Wisconsin Riverway Law, the statewide recycling program, and the Endangered Species Matching Grant Program. Spencer attended the UW-Madison and has 2 graduate degrees, Masters of Science in Urban and Regional Planning and a Master of Arts in Public Policy and Administration. Spencer previously worked as a high school teacher and coach, as curator of education of the Wisconsin Historical Society, and as a conservationist for the Sierra Club. Spencer is also an alumnus of Stuyvesant High School in New York City. I don't know how we were lucky enough to get him over here to the Midwest, but it has certainly been a great fortune for us. Spencer is currently a professor of urban and regional planning at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I want you to give Spencer a great welcome for coming up here to speak to us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy Earth Day. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and let me tell you a few reasons why. One, it's great to be up in the Chippewa Valley and have a chance to observe Earth Day with you. I'm really glad to be here with my friends Kristen Decker and Jeff Smith, who I very much enjoyed serving in the legislature with. You know, I'm also happy to be here because I don't know if you've heard, things have been a little crazy in Madison recently. You know, ever since Kristen and Jeff left the legislature, things have really gone to hell. You know, wouldn't it be great if we had Kristen Decker and Jeff Smith back in public service? I think so. Well, you know, as you are, even despite, Wisconsin's got quite a bit of attention, and I'm not sure it's all positive recently, but it's a state, I'm very proud. I've lived in the state, as was mentioned. I went to high school, not in the state, but I've lived here most of my life, and I'm very proud to be here as you are, to be a citizen of Wisconsin. There's a lot of great things we've done here in Wisconsin in our history. We've been first for so many great things. Did you know we were the state, the first state where the first hamburger was served? That's right, Seymour, Wisconsin. And we're the home of the ice cream sundae. And I don't think anybody will contradict me on this. I think we were the first state where people wore cheese on their head. But we have a few firsts that I think are a little more relevant to Earth Day as well. We were the first state to ban DDT when it was threatening our national symbol, the bald eagle. We were the first state to enact comprehensive groundwater protection to protect our drinking water and led the way on that. We were the first state to introduce legislation to stop acid rain, which has now become national legislation. We were the first state to enact legislation for a comprehensive program to protect our outdoor resources. Wisconsin has been the first state when it's come to the environment time and time again. And here on Earth Day, or on the eve of Earth Day, we were the state where Earth Day started. Our former governor, Gaylord Nelson, conceived of Earth Day and started it back in 1970. Now there's a governor I could be proud of, Gaylord Nelson. You know, talking about governors, in Madison the other day we had a visitor, Sarah Palin. Former Governor Sarah Palin came. Now, I'm going to say something nice about Sarah Palin. You know, Sarah Palin did something I wish Scott Walker would emulate. She quit in the middle of her term. Well, it's been 41 years since the first Earth Day, and we've accomplished a lot. You know, sometimes we look at the environmental problems we have, and they're significant. But we have to also, I think, recall how much we've done as a state and a nation. Let me talk about some of the things we've done as a state when it comes to protecting our environment, things we can all be very proud of. You know, we're here on the banks of the Chippewa River. Our major rivers in Wisconsin, if you went back 41 years, were not places where people enjoyed having a park alongside. They were open sewers. The Wisconsin River, the Fox River, the Chippewa River. They were eyesores. They were the least desirable place in town, not the most desirable place in town. But because people demanded it, because citizens said we want a clean environment for ourselves and our children, we need to clean up our state. And we have rivers now that flow clean and that people enjoy. That's something we've done together. You know, about 20 years ago, much of our natural resources, our outdoor environment, was threatened. Development pressures, changing ownership patterns, were threatening some of the things that make Wisconsin so special. We're a state of great scenic beauty, of biological diversity, of outdoor recreational opportunity, but we saw as many of the special places in Wisconsin threatened. But we as a state came together. And we said we were going to make a bold investment in the future of our state. And we enacted the Gaylord Nelson Warren Knowles Stewardship Fund, which has protected over 600,000 acres of the best of outdoor Wisconsin during the last 2 decades. You know, I look around here. I remember coming up here. I was trying to remember based on my son's age, and I think it was probably about 16 years ago when we cut the ribbon to inaugurate the Chippewa River Trail, which was built with stewardship fund money. And we look at, and downriver, the Chippewa, the protection of the Chippewa River downriver has been done with stewardship fund money. And so much of our North Woods, we've expanded our state parks and forests, protected wildlife areas, preserved some of our most special natural areas, created opportunities like the Chippewa River Trail for outdoor recreation. We've done that as a state, as a people, because we said we need to invest in our future, our environment. That's what makes our state great, and we've done it as citizens in Wisconsin. We can be very proud of that. We've done other things that we can be proud of. About 20 years ago, we faced the prospect of seeing 200 new landfills built in the state of Wisconsin to take care of our waste. But people across the state said, there has to be a better way. We have all these resources. We cut down forests, we mine metal, we use oil and petroleum to make plastic. We use them once, then we just throw them away and build landfills that are eyesores. There has to be a better way. And we enacted what is still the most comprehensive, far-reaching and effective recycling program as a state in the nation. In just 20 years, think of what we've done. It actually went into effect in 1995 because it took a few years to ramp up. Think of what we've done. We divert more than 50% of all the waste that otherwise would have gone to a landfill to recycling. Over $100 million of material that otherwise would go to waste, we productively use. And for those people who think destroying the environment is necessary to create jobs, we've created over 20,000 new jobs directly and indirectly through recycling. We've done it as a state, and we can be proud of Wisconsin that we've moved ahead on the environment. You know, and we've also looked at our energy needs. And we said, you know, in Wisconsin, we have no oil wells. We have no natural gas fields. We have no coal mines. We're blessed with a lot of natural resources, but they don't include those. But we have a state where the wind blows, in case you haven't noticed. We have a state where the wind blows, the crops grow, the sun shines. We can have made in Wisconsin energy to power ourselves. We can use the energy we have more efficiently, and we can use renewable energy, so we're less dependent on coal and oil and natural gas. We can save money, and we can protect the environment, reduce some of the gases that cause global warming, reduce air pollution, put people to work here in Wisconsin. And we passed legislation mandating that 10% of all our energy by the year 2016 come from renewable energy. We've done that as a state. We can be proud of that. And we've confronted another problem. Many of our lakes here in beautiful northwestern Wisconsin, as well as the rest of the state, are not as clean as we'd want, especially in summer. It will get warm, and we will have algae and weed growth in some of our lakes that will make them less desirable. But last year, the legislature approved rules, strong new rules, to cut down on phosphorus pollution, the nutrient that causes the excess weed and algae blooms and detract from the quality of the lakes. We've done that as a state, and we can be proud of what we've done for the environment and water quality. But it's a cold night. I'd like to end the talk right there and say things are great. But I can't. Because between what our new governor, Scott Walker, has already done and what he's proposed, he is taking a meat axe to the proud legacy of Wisconsin conservation. I'm glad you're here to help stop it, because our environment is important, and we can't let Scott Walker roll us backwards to the days when our air was polluted and our water was polluted. Let me tell you some of the things he's done already and some of the things he's proposing. Our Department of Natural Resources, our chief conservation agency, which often runs into tough times because it does a tough job, but has also been praised as an effective agency. Look at who he's appointed to run it. He appointed as secretary a person who had been in the state Senate, and when they were in the state Senate, had the worst environmental record of any state senator while she served there. Now she's in charge of the Department of Natural Resources. As a second person at DNR, he appointed the lobbyist for the builders, the person who lobbied for development and to weaken environmental standards. And for the person who's in charge of the division that regulates pollution, he put in there the lobbyist for the polluters. You know, you want to sort of say, use that old saw, it's the fox, or the fox is guarding the chicken house, but somehow that metaphor just seems too weak. Just seems too weak. So that's he did. One of the first bills he proposed was to have an exception to our wetlands law for a campaign contributor, to say that the wetlands that are protected here, it won't apply to his campaign contributor in the Green Bay area. Fortunately there, the company that was going to come in and build there, Bass Pro Shops, learned what was going on, and they said, we don't want to build there. Our clientele is people who fish, who understand the importance of wetlands, and Scott Walker chased that business out of our state. The other thing he's done is taken the top people, some of the important people at DNR who were civil service, who were protected, people who enforce the laws there, and he's made them into political appointees, people who can do his bidding rather than protecting the environment. One other thing he's done is he's passed regulations, proposed regulations that have now been enacted, that is effectively chasing the wind energy industry out of our state. Chasing the wind energy industry out of our state. Those are some of the things that have been done already. But let me tell you what he's proposed in the state budget that's now before the legislature. He wants to roll back many of the programs we talked about. He wants to end recycling in Wisconsin, eliminate the funding for local governments that's essential to our recycling programs, and end the requirement that we recycle. We've done so much for recycling, we shouldn't stop now. The people in Wisconsin, over 95% cooperate and participate in recycling. It's an insult to the people of Wisconsin to say we shouldn't continue recycling. And we've made progress reducing our need for imported fuel through renewable energy. But Scott Walker wants to end the Office of Energy Independence, roll back our renewable energy programs. We shouldn't let them. Wisconsin's future is in renewable energy, not in sending our money to Iraq and Iran. And our stewardship fund, which has done so much to allow us to enjoy the outdoors, he wants to undermine the stewardship fund in ways that will threaten its long-term future and its ability to protect our natural areas into the future. We shouldn't let them. Our outdoors is what makes Wisconsin special. We have to protect it, not hand it over to exploiters. And one last thing I want to mention. There's nothing more special about Wisconsin than our waterways, especially our lakes. And that's why the new phosphorus rules we have are so important, to start cleaning up some of our lakes that have become polluted through excess weed and algae growth. Those rules were negotiated, they're fair, and now Scott Walker wants to stop them. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't delay them. We shouldn't stop them or eliminate them. We have to move forward with cleaning up our lakes and waters. That's what makes Wisconsin special. Now, the excuse for doing these things, for rolling our environmental protections backwards, is supposedly to open the state for business. Now, having been in the legislature, I know that having a good job, a good economy is essential. That's a very important goal. But there's no falser choice than to say we have to choose between a good environment and a good economy. A good environment is what makes a good economy in Wisconsin. Why would it be good for our economy to eliminate recycling that creates over 20,000 jobs? Why would that be good for our economy? Why would it be good for our economy to eliminate our renewable energy programs when we send $16 billion a year out of the state to buy coal, oil, and gas from other states? We should keep that money here to protect the environment and create jobs for our Wisconsin citizens. Why would it be good for our economy to allow further pollution of our lakes, which are such an asset to Wisconsin? We should keep those lakes clean. That's what creates jobs here in Wisconsin. We should not roll back our environmental protections. We should move ahead. That's what's made Wisconsin special. It's good for our economy and it's good for our environment. We have a very proud legacy here in Wisconsin. We can be proud not only that it's the state where Earth Day started, but we are the state of Gaylord Nelson. We're the state of Warren Knowles, a Republican governor who knew how important it was to protect the environment. The state of John Muir and Aldo Leopold. We have a tradition of protecting the environment, and we, with the people who are so concerned, will tell Scott Walker, stop, you should not have your way. We're going to tell the people who are in office, we do not support Scott Walker's effort to roll back environmental protection. We want you to protect our environment. And if you don't, we're going to put some people in there who will. Proud stewardship of our environment has been important to Wisconsin, important to the quality of life, important to our economy, important to what we are. And here on the 41st anniversary of Earth Day, let us dedicate ourselves to protecting our state and telling those people who want to roll back environmental protections, that's not the Wisconsin way. The Wisconsin way is to protect and preserve our environment. Thank you very much.
Hi, I know many of you, but I don't know all of you, so let me introduce myself. My name is Duke Welter. I'm from Eau Claire, and for the last 7 years I've been a member of the Natural Resources Board, a stint which will last another 200 or so hours till my term expires and I and 2 other board members will be replaced by some Walker appointees. I'd like to talk with you about a number of the things that I think are important to mention. I can also throw away 2/3 of my notes because Spencer just covered almost all of them. So this will be mercifully brief. But I have to give a kudos to Spencer because over the last 20-some years he's been a tremendous hero of Wisconsin natural resources conservation. He's understood not only the need for leadership, but the need for people like us to stand up and be active and be vigilant and be present in these discussions. And we were present in the discussions about the mining moratorium, and we were present in the discussions about wetlands preservation and groundwater protection and a dozen other issues. He's listed most of them, but I can tell you, maybe I can't tell you how many meetings and letters I attended and how many, probably many of you attended in order to be a vocal citizen's presence over the last 20 years. And it's been effective. And I think that's one of the most important parts of our Wisconsin natural resource tradition, that we all get involved in it because we love this place. My remarks, I think, are going to focus a little bit more on stewardship. Steward is an interesting old word. Comes from the Old English. In the old days, when the sheriff was responsible for law enforcement across the shire, and the bailiff was a person who took care of the jail, the steward was the person who took care of the sty, the place where the animals that were being raised had to be taken care of well, and they needed to be clean, and they needed to be healthy, and they needed to be cared for. And in an interesting sort of way, it probably means that we all end up shoveling some stuff as we go through being stewards. But one of the things about stewardship is that it's had such a tremendous impact on this state. Ever since Gaylord Nelson proposed it first in the early 1960s as the Outdoor Recreation and Planning Act or something like that. And it was one of the first programs of its type in the country to set aside public dollars to purchase public lands for public use. And that was a tremendous amount of foresight that went into that. And as Spencer said, not only Nelson, but Governor Knowles were great supporters of that. And then Spencer helped with the enabling legislation 20-some years ago that allowed us to put the present stewardship program in place. And over the last 7 years, one of the things that I have enjoyed tremendously as a Natural Resource Board member is helping to set some of the course for stewardship and to help work on things like Ice Age Trail projects. Richard's in the audience, and Richard, thanks for all you've done in Chippewa County. It's wonderful. And other people here have been a real part of the stewardship program through individual purchases and then through individual advocacy all over the state. And we've had a tremendous record spending. Right now, last year we spent $86 million on stewardship acquisitions, and it's money well spent. But you know, that program needs support from everybody across the state and everybody across the spectrum in order to survive. And there are a couple of things that are going on with it that are real troublesome. One is the payment in lieu of taxes has been a tool that has paid local municipalities for the real estate taxes on a piece of property when it's bought by the state for public use, so there isn't any loss of tax revenue to that local municipality. That means that municipalities get two benefits. They get the tax payments they would have got if it had stayed in private hands, and they also get the benefit to their public and to the people that come in to use those lands. And that's one of the things that makes Wisconsin Illinois' vacation land, because they're coming here to use lands that we've set aside for public use, and so do we. And they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars to our local economies and an immense amount to our view of what it's like to live in Wisconsin. But this budget proposal would cut out the payment in lieu of taxes, one of the foundation tools of the stewardship program, and it would reduce local support for stewardship acquisitions. That's something that should not be allowed to go into that budget. It's destructive of that program. And another thing that's going on that we tried to do was to make sure that we spent state money on lands all over the state. And that meant that we had to spend more money to buy lands near population areas, like down in the southeastern part of the state. And we might have paid $10,000 an acre for land in Waukesha County, and at the same time to buy land in other parts of the state where we might pay $2,000 or $1,500 an acre. Well, one of the purchases that we made 2 years ago in southeastern Wisconsin was a 1,000-acre parcel called Rainbow Springs, an area that's along the Mukwonago River. It's kind of close to my heart, not only because it's a trout stream, but because it had a long, struggling, small golf course on it, where in my misguided earlier years as a golfer, I lost a gazillion golf balls. And when it was proposed to be bought as a place to remove that golf course and turn it back into wildlands for the public to use for all kinds of outdoor activities, I was real supportive of that, even though I may never get to go down there and use it very much, because it's so important to the southeastern part of the state to have these wild places. So we spent $10 million to buy that 2 years ago, and we said it's going to take 3 years for us to get a wildlife restoration plan and a stream habitat restoration plan back together. And in the meantime, we told the concessionaire we'd lease them this little golf course for 2 years, and then it'd have to be out. So now we're able to move on to the planning stage, and guess what's happened? We've got a little golf lobby down there led by the concessionaire and supported by a state senator who says she wants to change the state's stewardship law, which has said for decades, you don't spend stewardship money on golf courses. She wants to carve out one exception for Rainbow Springs. Now, are you actually going to tell me that there's only going to be one exception, that this is not going to be a precedent-setting thing? Come on. we need to make sure that we preserve the purposes of the stewardship law and we keep preserving wild places and restoring wild places across this state. That's for not our generation and not our kids' generation, but for the next 10 generations to come. That's what this is about. So we've seen a rollback on phosphorus. We've seen attempts to roll back stewardship. We're going to see other things over the next couple of years, and we're going to have to stand up and be vigilant and write letters and talk to legislators and raise some hell. Well, we can only hope. And so here we go. I can throw all that away now. Now I'm going to move on to the real purpose of my talk, and that is to act as the introducer of our next speaker. One voice who has been diligent over the last 25 years in bringing outdoor and resource issues before the public is a television producer who's located right here in Eau Claire. He's the host and producer of the award-winning Northland Adventures TV show that's seen weekly in 26 markets across 12 states. He's produced about 1,600 half-hour shows during his career. He's won numerous awards from the Outdoor Writers Association and other professional groups. He's a journalism graduate of the UW Eau Claire. He's married to Sue, a registered nurse and a lovely person. He has two daughters and three granddaughters and a female Springer, and also writes for various print media and has self-published 2 books. I'd ask you to please welcome with me Dave Carlson.
I'm humbled to follow Spencer Black and Duke Welter and to be sandwiched in between these other speakers as well. And guess what? I'm shaking. I've also got a raspy voice. I didn't really know if I was going to do this morning because I couldn't talk, but here I am. An outdoor journalist, you got to walk the middle road. An outdoor journalist, you've got to walk the middle road. Try to give both sides equal time, even in what I'm doing, an outdoor show. But I'm not a sleeping dog. I do rear up and go after some good stories. I'm not here to talk about Democrats, Republicans, or independents, because passing on the passion of Earth Day is what this and other rallies should be. Not about red or blue groups or states. It's about displaying and spreading conservation acts and the ethics as much as possible without inserting toxic politics. Democrat, Republican, independent, ask the wolf howling up north, the loon crying on a lake, geese and ducks on the flyways, brook trout clinging to shrinking cold water streams, walleyes losing spawning habitat, lake trout and salmon fighting invasive species. Ask them who's Democrat, who's Republican, who's an independent. They don't know. They don't know. They simply fight to survive. They try to avoid the bad and live on the good. The passionate among us speak on their behalf. You've heard a lot about the Knowles Nelson program. I concur that having been outside the journalism department or journalism profession, I've worked with acquiring land up in the the Halley Marsh area with Knowles Nelson money. Also NAWCA money, North American Wetlands Conservation Act money. You've heard about the Knowles Nelson and the threats it faces. They're real. They're not perceived. They're real. NAWCA is also facing threats. At the federal level, it was zero funded. A 20-year-old program that has saved about 26 million acres of wetlands habitat, zero funded by in the budget review process, setting a new federal budget. Fortunately, about 39 conservation groups quickly responded and managed to get that restored to about 37.5 million. Now that sounds like a lot of money, But consider that in 2006, I believe it was, or 2002, Congress appropriated up to $75 million a year for that program. Last year, it was only at 47, not even at the level that it was in 2003, and doing things with money that you can't do today because of land prices and so forth. NAWCA works on saving our waterfowl, our grasslands, our wetlands, and our water quality, national level, local level. That money has come in here. I'm alarmed as a sports person. I'm alarmed at what we see not only going on with NAWCA, but also plans to eliminate some other very productive programs: the Wetland Reserve, LAWCON, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and other programs that have worked so successfully to restore and protect wetlands and all the life forms that they provide. Some 4,500 passionate partners were involved in the NAWCA program. Over 2,000 projects. They used about $1 billion, excuse me, of NAWCA funds, and they matched it with $2.3 billion of local money, hard-earned dollars. But they pulled that off across the country, coast to coast, and in your own backyard, several times on the Halley property, other projects around western Wisconsin. There could be more cuts coming to CRP, elements of the Conservation Reserve Program. Once again, these are at the national level. There could be cuts to the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission, which does lamprey control on the Great Lakes, which saves our lake trout and salmon. A 20% reduction in those cuts in that lamprey control program could cause us to lose about 9 million pounds of fish flesh in the lakes, as the lamprey would grow proportionately from about the present estimate of 320,000 to almost 500,000 lamprey. Just this past few days ago, you heard word of another major concern, an environmental concern, and that is another bighead carp showing up on the St. Croix River at the mouth near Prescott. Frightening, real, but passion is needed on today's, on especially this day. Passion to get involved. Passion to rally the conservation causes, save cold water streams, plant new grasslands and forests, build recreational facilities, keep the environment healthy and the outdoor traditions alive. As Spencer said, and as Duke alluded to, this impassioned effort protects the natural resources so vital to our economic and individual health. Who are the passionate ones? Who are the passionate ones? You can see them in how they cast a fishing rod, or how they hold a rifle, and how they teach that to others. How they show off photos and proudly tell stories of their many outdoors experiences, diverse outdoor experiences. You can see it in their eyes around the campfires. You can see it in the scuffs on their boots, the sweat stains on their hat brims, and the briar cuts on the back of their hands. They don't have to be experts, but they need passion to be real. Passion for our heritage, passion for Earth Day's meaning, passion in their conservation actions, passions that can't be bought or sold. It's either there or it's not. Do you have it? Thank you. Have a happy Earth Day.
Thank you very much, Dave, for those inspiring words. My name is Tom Stolp. I'm field director out of the Eau Claire office for the Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters, for those of you who don't know me. All right, yeah. League of Conservation Voters fans, glad you're here. I'd like to begin by thanking the folks who put this event together. Like so many other good environmental actions that get done in the Chippewa Valley, Eleanor Wolf had an idea. And that idea was for an Earth Day rally. Thank you so much, Eleanor. Thank you to Rich Spindler. Both are excellent leaders in the Sierra Club and in Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters. They couldn't have done it without the help of others. Raleigh Hicks, Liz Spencer, thank you for your efforts. Thank you to our great lineup of speakers and for all your amazing contributions in showing good stewardship of our natural resources. But working with the League of Conservation Voters, I want to give particular thanks to Jeff Smith, to Kristen Dexter, to Spencer Black, for working hard on behalf of the people of Wisconsin, for standing up for our natural resources, for making the hard votes, for standing up to their party when they needed to, and saying we support an independent DNR secretary. We support clean energy. We support the Great Lakes Compact to keep our Great Lakes free of water diversions. Thank you for standing with us here today. Stand up for those laws again when they are under attack. I can summarize what it is that our organization hopes to do in one very, I think, very timely quote. When our organization was formed back in 2002, our honorary chairman was none other than Gaylord Nelson. And this quote might be familiar to some of you because I include it at the bottom of every email that I send out, because for me, there's no better way of saying what it is we try to do. Gaylord Nelson said, with the formation of Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters, Wisconsin's environment found its political voice. Now, natural resources, as we've heard earlier, have no voice. But we, as good stewards, need to stand up and fight for our natural resources when they're under attack. And let me tell you, folks, right now, they are under attack. Normally, the spring is a quiet time for the League of Conservation Voters. We've got the budget coming out. We're evaluating that budget for how it's going to impact natural resources. But as you can imagine, under this governor, with this budget, things have been nothing even resembling quiet. Add to that the fact that we have an opportunity right now, and it is an opportunity, but also a challenge, to send conservation champions down to Madison in some of the upcoming special elections. There's no better venue in Eau Claire that I can think of to have an Earth Day rally, because in 3 ways that I'd like to illustrate, it demonstrates exactly why we care for natural resources and how we hope to advance the cause of good stewardship of those natural resources. We're standing on the banks of the Chippewa River, which, as so many of you are aware, has unparalleled natural beauty as well as ecological diversity. But as we've heard earlier, the health of these waters are being challenged by Governor Walker's budget. Delaying the phosphorus rules and wastewater restrictions on wastewater treatment, as the governor proposes, is an affront to the Chippewa River and Wisconsin's lakes and rivers across our great state. We stand here today to tell Governor Walker, defend the Chippewa River, protect it, keep it clean. And one clear message is a quote that is not mine, but it's one that I'm quite fond of. When the governor says he wants to delay clean water laws by 2 years so that the economy can recover, we have this message to tell him. Governor Walker, economic progress delayed is economic progress denied. This venue is also home to many exciting events throughout the summer. These are warmer events than the one we have tonight, so I will speed up my remarks. But think, if you will, that how these events have come about and what they've done to our local economy. One interesting fact about these events is so many of them are going to 100% recycling and zero net waste, and they're doing that with the assistance of the county recycling program. Now, how terrible is it, at the same time the Chippewa Valley is making these great strides on recycling, Governor Walker is pulling the rug out from underneath us and saying that Wisconsin doesn't care enough about recycling to fund it. Now, you might have heard that Governor Walker is rethinking his position on recycling. He's going to give us back our recycling law, perhaps. But what you haven't heard this governor say is anything about restoring the funding Now, he's giving us the law, but he's keeping the funding for himself. We have one clear message for Governor Walker. Give us back our recycling funds, and let's keep this program because it's right for Wisconsin. And finally, in one way that I just learned yesterday, Phoenix Park is the perfect venue for this, the perfect place for this event. For those of you who don't know, where we're standing right now used to be a heavily polluted, industrialized area. For 100 years, it was home to heavy industry. 10 years ago, it lay abandoned. I'd like to say that I remember how bad it used to be, but quite frankly, I wasn't allowed to come down here when I grew up in Eau Claire. That's how bad it was. It was dangerous, it was blighted, it was not a place where you'd come down for a Sunday picnic. But look around you. This is a success of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund, which puts over $600,000 towards the Phoenix Park purchase. Governor Walker, as we've heard, is putting that program in jeopardy. So as we stand here on the banks of the Chippewa River in Phoenix Park, we have one clear message to the governor. Keep the Knowles Nelson Stewardship funding strong because it's what's right for Wisconsin communities. So we've got work ahead of us, folks. I think you all know that. I think you came here with your working clothes on, because we do have an historic opportunity, as I mentioned before, to send good conservation champions back down to Madison. And in doing so, we're going to send that message to Governor Walker. We're going to tell him that we want people in office who will stand for natural resources. I want to tell you about some ways that you can get involved here in the Chippewa Valley to make sure that that happens. There are folks going around with clipboards, and you can get in touch with me afterwards to sign up to volunteer in our office. Right now, there's a gentleman running for the State Assembly in a special election on May 3rd. His name's Steve Doyle, and he is our endorsed candidate for office. Steve is the La Crosse County Board Chair, and he has fought hard to make sure that La Crosse is on a sustainable track, that he has fought for efficiencies in their county buildings. He supports an independent DNR secretary. We know that Steve is going to stand up to Governor Walker and stand strong for natural resources. But we have an opportunity, and it's also a challenge. We need to make sure in the next 2 weeks that voters know Steve Doyle's running and that he's the pro-conservation choice for Assembly. And we need you to help us get there. You can sign up to volunteer and make calls and inform voters out of our office here in Eau Claire. And I encourage you to do so. If you can't be there to volunteer with us in person, we've got another way that you can get involved. I'm very pleased tonight to announce that with the contributions from Spencer Black and from a WLCV board member, Rich Spindler, we've been able to start a matching fund contribution drive. We have a pool of $1,000 that tonight we can match your contribution with, thanks to Rich and to Spencer. We need your contributions. We need more resources to be able to knock the doors, to make the phone calls, to send out the mail pieces so that voters know there is a real choice on May 3rd. And Steve Doyle is a candidate that's going to send a clear message to Governor Walker. So I encourage you to get involved. I urge you to support in any way that you can, so we can set the stage for even more wins for conservation through the upcoming special elections this summer and send pro-conservation candidates back down to Madison. Now, to give you more insights on how changes in the budget are going to impact our community, we thought who better than one of our local leaders here. I'd like to introduce Greg Moore, who's the chair of the Eau Claire County Board. On top of his work for our county, Greg and his wife Emily have been key leaders with Wisconsin Sierra Club. Greg is a member of Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters and a regular attendee of Conservation Lobby Day, where he provides key insight into how conservation programs impact our local communities. Please join me in welcoming Greg.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks, everyone. It is really cold, and I'm going to make this real quick, a little quicker than I had prepared. But we have a great recycling program here in Eau Claire County, and we should all be very proud of it. It's very cost-effective. It's got one of the lowest costs per ton of per recycled ton in the state. It's a county-wide program where we've got collaborative working relationships with every municipality in the county, as well as 3 other counties. 4,300 tons of recycled materials this last year, 30 tons of household hazardous waste from our 4 clean sweep programs, 2 brush disposal sites. It's really great. 8 drop-off centers in the rural areas, weekly curbside recycling. We've got a great program here, but most of the funding comes from the state, specifically from a segregated fund that's generated from recycling tipping fees and the recycling surcharge that goes into the recycling and renewable energy segregated fund. The governor, of course, criticized the legislature, recent legislatures, and the governor and Governor Doyle for diverting transportation segregated fund to non-transportation uses. That's exactly what's in this budget bill. It's renaming the Recycling and Renewable Energy Fund to the Economic Development Fund. Well, economic development's important, but it's not related to the use that's really generating these dollars. At any rate, the upshot is that's what's in the biennial budget. So there are encouraging words from legislators. Maybe it'll get restored. Hopefully it will. As Tom mentioned, we need the funding, not just the lip service, if you will. Just to give you a heads up, if you will, there was a significant change, however, in the budget repair bill that's gone into effect. So we were promised $700,000 for calendar year 2011, our budget year. We now have gotten notice that we are not going to get $284,000 of that in this current fiscal year. That is putting into jeopardy our 4 clean sweep programs that are scheduled this year and a number of other efforts. It's really disconcerting. But at any rate, all of your work, and I mentioned, we've talked about environmental heroes here today, and we really do have a great legacy of John Muir, who was born 173 years ago today, for what it's worth, and Gaylord Nelson and the other people, but all these other people up here, and many of you out here truly are environmental giants. So let's have a round of applause for all these folks and all of you folks. So thank you for being here, and let me introduce our next speaker, conservation champion, Kristen Dexter.
Okay. Thank you. Well, you've heard plenty of examples tonight about what we've got in this state and what we stand to lose. You've heard lots of facts and figures and lots of very eloquent statements, and so I won't do any of that. And I thought instead I'd end the night with a skit. So JJ, can I use your sign there for a minute? Jeff Smith, come on up here. You didn't know you were going to do this, did you? All I need you to do is stand and hold that in front of your face. We're going to talk about a different kind of green. We have green governors from the past. Well, today we've got a governor who thrives on a different kind of green. And all the facts and figures you just heard can be summarized and broken down, distilled into just a few things, and that's the trail of money. So we have David Koch right here. And he and his buddies thought, who can we hire? Who can we get to come to Wisconsin and do our bidding? And so they found Scott Walker. And they gave Scott Walker lots of money to win this election, and so he did. And now Scott Walker's in office, and he says, no, I got to pay these guys back, so what am I going to do? I'm going to roll back environmental protections that's going to allow my friends to pollute. So here you go, David, have some more money back. And then David Koch says, well, now what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to help in a Supreme Court election. And so we've got over here, we've got David Prosser. Tom. So here we've got David Prosser. And so some money goes from here over here to David Prosser. And then David Prosser, what does he do? He casts some votes that make it a lot easier for polluters to stay in Wisconsin and pollute and dump phosphorus into the lakes and into the rivers. And that's all this is. It's just this going back and forth. That's the whole story, folks. This is my son's money. I need it back. I took it. All right, you guys are done. Well, that's a little simplified, a little facetious, and a little silly. But the danger is there, and the danger is real. And what we have in this state, we must protect. So how are we going to do that? One way is to crawl into a hole and pretend it's not happening. That's not going to work, and none of us would be standing out here in this weather tonight on this freezing cold concrete if we didn't have the passion to actually do the work that it takes to elect and re-elect the kind of people that are going to keep this state green and clean, that are going to keep this state moving, even though there's no talk of it right now. There is absolutely no talk about bioenergy, about clean energy, about wind energy, about solar energy, about alternate transportation. There's no talk about that at all. So what we need to do is get rid of the people who are there and elect and re-elect people like Spencer Black and Jeff Smith and possibly even me and a different governor. And whoever it takes and whatever it takes to make sure that we keep this state steeped in the heritage that it's been steeped in all these long years. I was talking to a friend of mine, and now I'm going to end on a more serious note, but I was talking to a friend of mine. He hunts, he fishes, and he's a great environmentalist, and I said, tell me what Earth Day means to you. Tell me what everything that's been going on in the state means to you. And he said that we need to elect leaders who stress stewardship of natural resources. And we have to hammer home the notion that unabashed mastery and disrespect for our natural resources is bad for business. And that's the exact message that Spencer was saying, that there are examples upon examples upon examples of how moving toward a clean energy economy is good for business. We're standing in one of the prime examples of how cleaning up an area is good for business and good for everything, that all of our values in Wisconsin. He went on to say, stewardship benefits our generation and those that follow. And that is a very simple message from a very good friend, and I think we all believe that. So we're talking about elections. We have just north of us, we're not actually in the district, but we've got the 7th Congressional District currently represented by Congressman Sean Duffy, who puts on a plaid coat, and he knows how to use an axe, and he sells himself as a man of the woods. But honestly, I don't care if my congressman can use an axe or even hold an axe. That's meaningless. What I want is for my congressman to stand up to the polluters and stand up to the money, stand up to the big business that has no regard for environment except as a vehicle to dump its sewage and transport its dirty air. So that's who I want as my congressman. We need Senator Pat Kreitlow as the new congressman from the 7th Congressional District. We've got the 93rd Assembly District on the south side of Eau Claire. We've got the 68th Assembly District, where we're standing right now on the north side of Eau Claire. We've got the 67th Assembly District up in Chippewa Falls. All 3 of these districts are held by brand new elected representatives, and they are all voting in lockstep with Governor Walker, and they need to go in 2012. And so we will be working on that as well. This meeting is adjourned. Happy Earth Day. Stay strong, stay green, stay blue.